song. So cool.
Sometimes old feelings come up, like I would call it something from childhood or from the conditioning of this lifetime. The personality will come up with a strong recall, a way that I used to think or feel that hasn't been there in a long time because of the surrender, and the inquiry kind of seems to dissolve a lot of those tendencies. But then every now and then they'll kind of just show up. And it's in those moments where more effort has to be made to not be pulled in, to not get lost in that feeling. We were talking about
effort in what way?
To do self-inquiry.
Okay.
Like if there's anger, all of a sudden who's angry will start to be the question. And if that happens, which it normally does, the anger can dissolve because now it doesn't really stand up in the presence of self-inquiry.
It's kind of like shining a light on a shadow, and you realize that it's just not.
Exactly. It may, the little trigger of anger though may happen very quickly, and then it's already out. Like if I just flip a table, now I have to catch it. Part of what we were talking about earlier today was rejection, and I've noticed that in the last few months, that feeling brings up the kind of the deep core essence of what that personality construct is made of.
Yeah.
How have you found in your experience, like having to deal with rejection?
When I was young, I was my anger and my tension and everything was just basically, I was constantly on the defensive, just waiting for the next rejection. Somebody that wasn't buying into my act, basically. Because how could they? It was only later that I realized that I couldn't be rejected at all because, no one can really see me because the truth of who I am is totally without qualities. But that was much later. When I was young, my whole life was, I engineered by the mind in order to set up situations where I would be accepted, that my presence would be acceptable to everybody, and thus I would get a good position in the herd, and survive, better chances of survival and procreating and all the rest of the. I guess Maslow has this hierarchy of needs that we run. And when we believe that who we are is our personality and what we're projecting out into the world, and then it gets pushed right back in our faces, it's a survival issue. So then anger, fear, and if I think I can do something about it, anger will show up, and as a, it's really the tyranny of the mind. It's the mind tyrannizing, staying in control, and continuing to project the persona, the personality.
Is there a difference between the mind and the ego?
Well, neither are real when we inspect them. The ego is just a construct, and the mind is, a bundle of thoughts, and a particular bundle of thoughts, is about me, and that bundle of thoughts make up what we call ego, as if it's some separate, standalone entity, but it isn't. And that's why we're so antsy and worried about being rejected, because in our heart of hearts we know it's an act that we're projecting out in front of us, that it really isn't. It isn't really who we are.
So possibly that's a good thing to to start to realize that if the ego is being rejected, we can kind of rejoice that it has nothing to do with who we really are.
Yeah, but it's much more honest to feel. If you feel that rejoicing, then fine. But to, you know, you could do that as another, you know, strategy. You know, it could be another strategy for the ego to stay unscathed and unexamined, basically. So we have to be careful about the one who thinks that he can do something in order to get rid. You know, it's paradoxical. On one hand, Ramana makes no. You know, there's no room for error. He says basically you need to do self-inquiry until there's nobody left to inquire. Or in his case, he said, when asked how long he would do it, he said, until my last breath. These lives can be lived as the question. And it's quite wonderful.
So there isn't necessarily an end point. It's an ongoing inquiry.
The ego would have that there's an end point, and you know, the ego is always trying to accomplish something. It's trying to, you know, have its ends get met. And it's a little bit like if there's someone there that seems to be in charge of your spiritual development, you can bet it's the ego, and you can also bet that it's well, I think Ramana said it's like the policeman, you know, the thief pretending to be the policeman and has been put in charge of the castle.
It's going to catch the thief that is itself.
Right, exactly, exactly.